not only am I someone's wedding photographer, I am there to kind of maintain peace and keep them calm, and so many stressors on a wedding day.
Hello, and thank you for tuning into Business and Beyond. I am your host, Brian Braga, and today we are joined by Kaitlyn Ropp, an award-winning wedding photographer here in the region of Waterloo. And in today's episode, we deep dive into what it takes to be a successful photographer, some tools to get ahead, and how Kaitlyn's best asset is her relationship to her clients. If you want to be a wedding photographer or a photographer in general, this episode's for you, and I hope you enjoy. Hello and welcome back to Business and Beyond. My name is Brian Braga. I am your host. And today we are joined by Kaitlyn Ropp, who is a photographer, very well known and award-winning in Waterloo region. Kaitlyn, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. How are you doing today?
Gosh, thank you for having me. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing amazing, thank you. We just had some tech issues for those who aren't with us right now. So I just had her waiting for 30 minutes before I got her on here. Absolute trooper.
That's okay. I did not mind. It gave my cats a second to settle, so I think it worked out really well.
Worked out very well. Shout out to Kaitlyn's cats. Kaitlyn, do you want to tell us a bit about your photography journey and how you got into your career?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually went to post-secondary for photojournalism. So photography has kind of been an interest of mine for a really long time. After I graduated, I learned really quickly that working in news is quite depressing. I think I watched too much Gilmore Girls growing up, that I had it a little bit glamorized in my mind of what I was getting myself into. So after I graduated, I had like a little bit of an existential crisis, which timed out really well with the pandemic, which gave me an opportunity to kind of reflect, think about what I want to photograph. And from there, I started Capture by Kait as just a little side hustle. And I'm really grateful because the pandemic actually helped boom my business and turn it from a side hustle into now my full-time job.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. And did you ever work in like photographing journalism? Like, did you enter that space for a bit after your post-secondary?
I did. So I actually worked for a newspaper in Cambridge for a very short window of time. And then I actually transitioned from journalism into a marketing role and then started my own business kind of as a side hustle. And then now it's evolved and is my full-time job.
Nice. That's great to hear. And how did you take it being your side hustle and transform it into becoming a full-time career?
I think networking has been the biggest thing in this industry. I get probably all of my clients, or at least the bulk of them, through word of mouth, and through vendor referrals and referrals from other photographers. So I think just like putting myself out there, meeting with other vendors in KW is what kind of took it from just something that was fun on the side to now full time.
Nice. That's awesome. And I must say, like, I'm looking at your Instagram, and then there's people that I know like separately, independently from like some other walk of life that you're working with. And I see them pop up on your page and I'm like, how do they know each other? So your networking skills are insane. I will admit that. Yeah, like you're all over the map.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice. I also am quite lucky because myself, I'm at the getting married stage and phase of life. So a lot of my clients are people that I went to high school with, friends of theirs who I went to high school with. My age definitely plays a factor in my network too, because people I know that are my age are getting married. So it has worked out well in that sense.
Nice. And I know you mentioned like a couple of like vendor events. Do you go to some vendor events, or have you gone to them? Like, did you do that to promote your business?
Venues will do open houses. So wedding venues in KW, I've gone and toured and just kind of put myself and my name out there. The vendor relationships has been huge for me. Getting to know venue owners in KW has put me on the preferred vendor list at 4 venues, which has honestly skyrocketed my business. How a preferred vendor system works for people who maybe don't know the wedding space very well is once you book a venue, that's normally first step in getting married is you book your venue. And from there, a lot of people don't really know where to go. So venues put together a preferred vendors list, which is essentially the vendors in the area that they like to work with. And it's all in one big PDF that's like, hey, you booked our venue. Here are some great people that you can work with. So getting myself on those lists has been huge.
Nice. And how did you get to the point where you were getting on those lists? Like, is it working your way up like a ladder, or is it who you know, like at those venues, getting on the inside scoop, or how'd you get on those preferred vendors lists?
A lot of it has been working at the venues and building relationships with the venues staff. I think when you run a wedding day, it's so high stress, and it's nice to have happy, friendly faces coming into the building and kind of just chatting with you. So that's kind of how I made my way onto these preferred vendors list, was just getting to know the staff at venues, saying hello, bringing them coffee, chatting about their day. Like the biggest piece of advice I ever got when I started my business was that kindness opens a lot of doors.
Nice.
So just being kind and chatting with people is a huge networking opportunity.
Nice. That's a really good quote as well. Kindness opens a lot of doors. I feel like leading with kindness, especially when you're so new in an industry too, it's like if you're nice and you do great things, it's like people remember you, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced when starting Captured by Kate, and how'd you overcome them?
The biggest was the time that I started my business. So I officially, I guess, started Capture by Kate in late 2019. Very part time. So I was only doing like one or two things every month. And then when I started to pick things up was right in the middle of the
Mm,
pandemic. Um, so that was the biggest obstacle, and it hit me kind of right when I got going. Um, it just taught me to be very flexible. The pandemic had a lot of rescheduling for weddings, and with restrictions, I wasn't even able to shoot at a lot of times. So just the biggest obstacle right away, and I just had to adapt and be flexible. And I think that was the biggest lesson, was that sometimes you're gonna have to reschedule, and you're just gonna have to make it work.
yeah, I could be wrong just because I'm not in that wedding space yet. But didn't COVID cause a lot of like a big gap, I guess, like during the shutdowns where like a lot of weddings didn't even have anything going on? Like, were you pretty dead during those periods, or were you still pretty busy?
I was pretty dead, and then pretty busy, and then pretty dead. It was like a weird ebb and
Mm,
flow because we went from being in lockdown to things lifting to being in lockdown again. So it kind of was a really strange time. For the most part, my weddings were not happening. Those were all pushed into the next year or even the year after that. What kind of kept me afloat was family sessions, engagement sessions, and things that I was sort of capable
mm.
of doing during restrictions. Um, that kind of leads into not niching down. We've chatted briefly about this before we got on the podcast, but when I first started my business, the biggest piece of advice in my ear was, you have to find a niche. You have to do one thing. Like, if you're going to do weddings, just do weddings. And the pandemic taught me that that isn't always the route that you have to take or should take. And I'm really glad that I didn't niche down, because it was able to fill in those big gaps for me financially when weddings were not happening. And it also keeps me connected with my clients. So I do engagement sessions, which then leads into a wedding client, and that wedding client will eventually settle down and have a family, which then leads into me having family sessions in the future. So I'm grateful that I didn't niche down. I think that was the biggest takeaway from the pandemic for me, was that, you know what, you're capable of doing it all. So you might as well do it all.
Nice. That's a great piece of advice as well. So shout out Caitlyn's cats. Shout out COVID-19. Shout out not niching down. Three shout outs so far.
I love it. I think niching down can be very beneficial. So I'm not sure that it is the answer to working in the photography space. But if you enjoy like multiple aspects of photography, whether it be family sessions, weddings, why not do them all?
Yeah.
Like the beauty of owning your own business is that you can kind of cater it to the things that you enjoy. And if you enjoy shooting everything, shoot
Yeah,
everything.
nice. And do you remember how you landed your first wedding photography client, and what was that like, that experience?
So I started out with second shooting, and that would be a big piece of advice for anyone who wants to get into wedding photography is reach out to a local photographer who is already established and see if they need someone to assist them on a wedding day. So my first few weddings were second shooting, which I'm grateful that I did that because it prepared me for what a wedding day
Mm,
entails. Um, and it also got me a portfolio and wedding content to share on like my social media, so people knew that that was something that I even did. The first time I got a wedding client though of my own, I was like, holy crap! I thought that was when like imposter syndrome started to kick in, and I was like, I can't do this by myself.
yeah,
And then once my nerves settled and I was actually like doing it on a wedding day, it was no different than second shooting for someone
nice.
else.
That's so good to hear. And I feel like imposter syndrome gets the best of us too, right? It's just like you're in a new field, you're like, can I do it? But it's really just overcoming that mental battle, and you realize you can.
Hmm. And like an inquiry alone is proof that someone trusts
Yeah,
you to do these things. So my first wedding inquiry was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this by myself. But the more I sat with it, I'm like, this couple reached out to me because they trust that I can
mm,
do it for them.
yeah. How do you handle the pressure of a once in a lifetime moment and capturing that for their forever moment?
Man, lots and lots of caffeine before a
Nice.
wedding day. No, I'm just kidding. Um, I think just getting out of my head. No one is looking at me when I'm shooting a wedding. Everyone is focused in on the bride. Um, so I'm just there snapping the pictures, and I have backups on safety nets, so I know if something fails that I still have all of their moments captured. I
Nice.
can kind of like go into what those backups look like, but all of my wedding packages include two photographers, so there's myself and a second. So there's a backup. um, I always bring multiple bodies, so if anything was to go wrong, I have like another camera strapped to my body that's ready to
Mm,
go. So just having these safety nets in place has taken away like all of the anxiety day, because I know that like if something goes wrong, that I'm set to fix it.
nice. Those safety nets are crucial as well, and it sounds like you have a
Oh
really
my
good
gosh,
system,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's something that I learned really quickly, and that's why I always encourage new photographers to reach out to someone who is established and work with them. Because had I not had the experience seconding with other photographers, I'm not sure that I would even have those backups in place or truly know the structure of a wedding day to the
Yeah,
extent that I did before I showed up to my very first client of my own.
nice. And do you keep the same second shooter for every wedding you do, or do they vary depending on where you're going?
It rotates. I have like a pretty strong network locally, and so a lot of my friends are in the wedding space as well. So we'll contract each other out. My husband sometimes shoots with me. So it truly just depends on like my associates' schedule, and then whoever's available tags along. I would say that I have like a team of five that I like pretty consistently work with
Nice. Yeah,
though.
that's awesome. And on a wedding day
Yeah.
itself, like, is the vision up to the bride and groom? Like, are you following what they're hoping for in their vision? Or do you have like a vision that you're typically contracting out, showing your portfolio, saying, hey, this is my style of shooting and this is what I can do for you?
I would say that I do have a style. All of my clients, I jump on a consultation call and kind of chat through what their vision is to make sure that we're a good fit. I typically take a more candid approach to a wedding day, or a more documentary style approach. So I'm not necessarily like posing people all day long. I kind of let moments unfold naturally on a wedding day. And then when it comes to their portrait session, I use like more playful prompts,
Mm,
lots of movement. So I chat through with my clients during the booking process to make sure that that's a good fit for them. But I would say that like in terms of my approach, it generally stays the same. A lot of my couples will send like some inspo, like from Pinterest and stuff, that I'm happy to adhere to a little bit. But for the most part, my like style, my approach, sort of how I handle a day generally stays the same.
Nice. That's good. A good system in place.
Yeah, and I am pretty introverted naturally. So I know when I got married, it was a big vetting process of who I wanted to photograph my wedding. I didn't want it to feel like an 8 hour long photo shoot. And so when I started my business, I was like, okay, that's what I want to do for my clients as well, is I want them to just enjoy their wedding day and not feel like it's like a 10 hour long photo shoot. So that kind of influenced my approach, and like it seems to be working well with my clients. There are clients that want that Pinterest perfect posed look, and those just aren't the clients for me.
And did you enter the photography space before you got married, or did you get married and then enter the wedding photography space?
I got married when I was still working in the industry, but like very,
Mm.
very early in the beginnings. Once I experienced my own wedding, I kind of was like, okay, time to reflect, take notes. This is what I really enjoyed from my wedding photographer, and this is how I can implement similar things in my business. Because my photographer, I'll shout her out. Her name's Lindsay Coulter, incredibly talented. She made me feel so comfortable and confident, and that's what I want for all of my clients. So I kind of learned from the people around me, whether it be my own wedding photographer or like my friends who have taken photos for me. And I was like, okay, I don't like this, I like this, and here's how I'm going to implement it in my own
Nice,
business.
and it's great that you got that insight too. Getting married, experiencing what the bride would be experiencing on their wedding day, and you kind of have that
Yeah,
additional upper hand of knowing exactly what they're feeling in that moment and ensuring that they get what they're hoping for, right?
yeah, for sure.
Nice. And then, what's the most memorable wedding you've ever photographed, and why?
Man, this past summer was probably the craziest wedding that I've ever photographed. The couple is lovely, but the wedding was chaotic from the start. So they got married in Punta Cana and Dominican, and once we arrived in Dominican, we all got a little alert on our phone saying that a hurricane was
Oh
coming.
my God. Okay.
And the hurricane happened to hit Dominican on the couple's wedding day. Sort of instantly, we were like, okay, time to pivot. What are we doing? There's a hurricane coming. Myself and the videographer that was working that wedding, we kind of connected and we were like, what do we do here? So we ended up doing all of their portraits the day before their wedding. And the wedding day, we woke up. Uh, the hurricane was supposed to come in around 10 in the morning. It went from a category 3 to a category 5 overnight.
That's good. Nice.
So it was raining that morning, and we just kind of played it by ear. We shot the getting ready photos. We were just kind of like waiting it out to see what happened. And it was the most miraculous parting of the clouds,
Wow.
like actual parting of the clouds. And right near the start of the ceremony, the sky cleared, the hurricane passed fully through the island, and we were able to do a beach ceremony.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's,
Yeah, it was
that's a
crazy. It
crazy
was
story.
crazy. It was crazy. So we got so flexible. Like we did all of their portraits the day before, thinking that okay, you know what, we're probably not going to get the chance to do much on their wedding day, because of the hurricane rolling in. And right as the bride finished her hair and makeup, the storm cleared.
Wow.
It was the wildest thing.
Yeah. I know they say that rain on our wedding day is like good luck, but what does a hurricane mean?
Really, really
Yeah,
good luck.
must be.
I told the bride, I was like, you guys gotta buy like scratch tickets. Like, if this is good luck, like, you better like, this is gonna be the best of luck.
Yeah, I feel like even like hurricane and then clearing up right before the ceremony too. It's insane.
It was crazy. I remember chatting with, so there was myself, there was a videographer, and there was a content creator, and we were all kind of like huddled, like, "Ooh, what do we do?" And then all of a sudden we were like, okay, let's check, let's see like what the forecast is bringing. And we were watching it just disappear, and we were like, how is this happening? This is crazy.
Nice. And honestly, that's really a good testament as to like your flexibility and how you move on the fly, and running back to what we were talking about with COVID
Hmm.
too. It's like you learn the flexibility, you learn how to like adapt to your situation, and that's a really good testament to that as well. Because I'm sure if I was getting married and the day before my wedding there's a hurricane coming tomorrow, I'd be like, I don't know what to do. My entire wedding's about to be disrupted. But you
Yeah.
were very smart with the, oh, we'll get your photos beforehand, we'll wait it out in the morning. Like you had very good solutions right there too.
Oh, thank you. I think the biggest thing that I learned once I was really in the wedding space was that not only am I someone's wedding photographer, I am there to kind of maintain peace and keep them calm. And there are so many stressors on a wedding day. And it's nice to have someone who can just kind of center you and bring you back to why you're here. And that's because you and your partner love each other and want to commit to each other for life. So it's my job to keep my clients calm too. So rain on a wedding day, a hurricane on a wedding day, it's up to me to kind of help my clients overcome these things and pivot and give them a plan and like, okay, this sucks, but you know what, it's going to be great when we get photos in this beautiful space inside. So maintaining peace on a wedding day is like a big part of my job too, because no one wants to be stressing
Yeah.
about the things outside of their control and then having a vendor in their ear also stressing about the things that are outside of their control.
Nice. Yeah, kudos to you for staying calm in that situation and thinking on the fly.
Yeah, I don't like storms even when I'm in Canada. Like a thunderstorm gives me so much anxiety. So like that was a true testament of my willpower
Yeah.
because I was like, I was panicking, but I'm like, don't worry, girl, it's gonna be fine.
As long as you appear calm too, like people aren't questioning
No,
anything. Yeah, it's just
exactly.
like don't panic. If
Exactly.
you're panicking, keep it on the inside. Everything will be fine. I
Exactly.
know you've won like multiple awards. What does being an award-winning photographer mean to you and your business?
Um, so I won the Reader's Choice for Best Photographer, which I was so grateful for, and it's a testament that like my clients trust me. They're willing to put my name out there for me, and it just the community that we've built together is just like this amazing thing. And I was so shocked. I actually didn't even know I was nominated, and then I got an email saying that I won, and I was like, wait, who even nominated me for this? um, so it just shows that like the relationship that I build with my clients just far exceeds sharing a wedding day with them.
Nice. Yeah, that's very good testament. And do you have any equipment that you would consider essential for your line of work?
Besides a
Yeah.
camera, no, I'm just kidding. Um, I use AI a lot in my
Nice.
business, actually. So I would say that that piece of technology has really helped my business so much. Also, like, I use a lot of planning technology, CRM. So I'm a big Notion girly. I really like having like my day laid out for me. Um, those would be the biggest pieces of tech, I guess, is AI, my camera, um, and my
Nice.
CRMs.
What do you use AI for?
So AI has gotten crazy in the in the photography world, actually. So I'm sure everyone does this, but besides like writing emails with ChatGPT, I use AI in almost my entire workflow. So culling, which is the process of taking all of the images that I captured and kind of selecting the favorites. I That is all done through AI.
Wow.
Um, so once I leave a shoot or a wedding day, I come home, I back up all of the images, and then I run it through a call through AI. So AI will detect whether or not someone's eyes are open, if the image is blurry. It will even like go through and pick similar images and then select it down to the favorites.
Hmm.
So I use AI to cull for me, and I've recently switched to using AI to edit for me.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't know that there was
Yeah,
so many features with AI in the photography space as well.
it has been very helpful. So you have to train your AI. So I use a software called Aftershoot to do all of my AI editing. So I had to take around 100,000 images that I had already edited myself, use that to train my AI, and then that learns my style, my color grading, and it will edit for me. I still go through it after it's done the AI and tweak it just a little bit, but it's really upped my workflow. I'm able to take on nearly double the clients that I was able to when I was culling and editing myself. So it's been a huge tool for me.
Nice. And you were saying you use a CRM as well. How has the CRM helped your business?
So I use a CRM for like everything. I am a CRM girl. So I do all of my inquiries are done through my CRM. It keeps track of my projects, like what's on the go, where it is it being called right now? Is it being edited? Here's the due date. So I use that to kind of plan out what I'm working on, based on due dates and things like that. And then I also use it for my booking. So all of my booking is done through my CRM. I use it for invoicing, contracts,
Wow.
everything.
Nice. It sounds like you have the business end of things really figured out there. And also, before we started this podcast, you said you weren't very techy, but I feel like a heavy use of AI and a CRM is pretty techy here.
Yes, I guess a little techy, but like when it comes to like any sort of computer malfunction or like breakdown, I'm like, uh-oh, I'm gone.
That's fair.
But my CRM has been really helpful. I use it every single day in my business. I would say that my workflow was once my biggest struggle in my business. I think when you are in the creative space in any capacity, you're in it because you like producing art. Like I like to take photographs and make these beautiful images for people. I did not know the extent of back end and admin and like marketing and all of these things that went into running a successful photography business. So for a couple years, that was really my pain point, and I've recently like narrowed in on getting my workflow perfect, because it's probably the biggest part of my business is not actually taking the pictures, but everything that happens behind the scenes.
And what type of advice would you say to give to a new photographer on like maximizing their workflow and really honing in on getting a good system down?
I think it's definitely not like a one size fits all solution. Like you gotta find what works for you. AI can be such a strong tool. It does take a lot of images to get your AI trained to edit for you, but you can use AI in so many other ways to like take some of the load off of you. AI culling doesn't require any sort of importing of images to get it started for you. So using AI to cull is like a huge task that you can take off of your shoulders and put it onto the robots. And then having a good CRM from the get go is really important too. To keep your contracts, your invoices, all of your bookkeeping all in one spot. It just helps keep you organized. You know that it's all right there. So I would say getting a good CRM would be step one, and then utilizing AI and the tools in front of you as early as you can.
Nice. Shout out AI, shout out CRM also. Lots of shout outs in this
Mm-hmm.
podcast.
Lots of shout
Yeah.
outs.
What has been the most fulfilling part of running Captured by Kait?
It's the connections that I build with my clients. I recently just shot a family session, and if I look back in my years under Captured by Kait, I shot their first couple session. I shot their engagement photos. I shot their wedding. I shot their newborn photos when they had their first baby, and then I just recently shot family photos for them as a family of four. So it's really nice to get to know my clients and build relationships with them and keep getting invited back into their lives, and watching their families grow. It's really something
Nice.
special.
That sounds very fulfilling. And it sounds like on top of the
Yeah.
photography business, like you're in a relationship business, like you're creating so many relationships with so many people in so many walks of life. Like
Yeah.
nice. And
It's
sorry, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead. I was just gonna say it's just it really is a very human industry, and like you have to build strong relationships with people. Like I'm coming into some of the most vulnerable moments in people's lives, like proposing, like getting married, like having your first baby. So you truly build really great relationships with your clients.
Nice. And where do you see
Yeah.
your business going in the next 5 years?
Man, I would love to explore the elopement space in Ontario a little bit more. I think when we think of eloping, we often think of getting on a plane and flying to this beautiful destination to get married, but there are so many beautiful destinations within Ontario that make great elopement destinations. So I would love to take on more local elopements. I would love to eventually build my business up to have a team under my belt. So instead of it just being myself as the primary shooter, I would love to have a few associates under my belt that, can take on more projects for me. I'm only one person, so if someone's getting married on June 5th, I can only be there on June 5th. So I would love to eventually get my business to a point where I can take on like 3 weddings a day and really pump out beautiful photos for people.
Nice. At that point, would you be also training photographers, like taking brand spanking new photographers, or would you be looking for a couple more experienced photographers that you can like entrust with the Captured by Kait brand?
I think that I would probably keep it very small and tight knit with maybe photographers that are already established a little bit and kind of contract them in and out, if that makes sense. Um, So, like I mentioned before, so much of this is far beyond just taking pictures. It's building relationships and, it's being that person of calm on someone's wedding day. So I would want to make sure that my team has the same values that I do and are able to kind of achieve the same things on a wedding day that I am in terms of that relationship aspect. But there's so much talent in KW that I have no doubt in my mind that if I wanted to build a team, I could build a very, very talented one.
Nice. I'm excited to see where the future takes you for sure. Like,
Thank you.
I follow you on Instagram, so I'll be following your journey also. And then, yeah,
Thank
when as soon
you.
as you see, or as soon as I see someone being added to your team, I'll know it was coming.
Yeah, you've got like you're like, I saw this one coming.
Notifications are on.
Yeah, yeah.
If someone wants to reach out to you to book a branding shoot or any sort of shoot for wedding, elopement,
Yeah.
engagement, where can they find you?
So they can find me on my website. It's Captured by Kait, Kait, and then it's the same on all socials. So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Captured by Kait.
Sweet. Is your website .com or .ca?
.com, capturedbykait.com.
Nice. Good to know. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Do you have anything else you want to say before we end this off?
No, I think we kind of covered so much. Thank you for having
Yeah, of
me.
course. Well, thank you for listening to Business and Beyond. For whoever is still here, please catch us on the next one. And if you enjoyed this podcast, go follow Captured by Kait on Instagram. Go follow myself, Mortgage Guy Brian, on Instagram. And then we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.